Okay, the state recognized presence of the jury and the defense. Okay, members of the jury, was your outing for lunch okay? All right. All right, you may continue.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'd like to approach the witness with what has been marked as state's NR for identification. I've shown this to counsel.
All right.
Have a look at the composite exhibit NR for identification and tell me if you recognize the documents contained therein.
Yes.
What do you recognize them to be?
Canine Garris's certifications, training logs, along with my training and experience.
What says the defense?
Would object. Hearsay.
May I see him?
You would also sign impossible during the judge.
Ms. Burdick, for the record, could you ask them just a few more questions about what this exhibit contains?
I will. Thank you. Deputy 4G, you were given just a brief opportunity there to look at the documents that comprise NR for identification. Did you see the first set? Let me get those back to you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
If you go through each one and tell me what it is.
The first is a certification for myself and Canine Garris for completion of the basic police human remains detection training course.
All right, that is one of the courses that you've already explained what was involved with it, and was the certificate was awarded at the end of that program.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next document.
The next document is a copy of the memo, which Sergeant David Wade sent to my chain of command in reference to when the dog was his actual certification. It's dated 7/29 of 2005. He was evaluating the dog, and he passed his certification. It's the memo.
All right. Are those maintained as a business record by the Orange County Sheriff?
Yes.
Okay. You are responsible for monitoring the contents of the business record involving Garris,
That is correct.
and that's one of those that is contained therein?
Yes, it is. I have it. In fact, I have I believe the original right here next to me.
Okay. The next document?
The next document is for the original outside course that I went to in Sarasota, Florida. The first one, the Basic Cadaver Search School, which was put on by Canine Specialty Search and Associates. That was dated November of 2005.
Are you the individual responsible for maintaining the business record of the Orange County Sheriff as it relates to Canine Garris?
I am.
Right. Does that document, is that an accurate copy of the documents maintained in the course of business of the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
It is.
Do you have knowledge as to whether or not the contents of that document were made at or near the time of the event in question? The event being the certification or the training certificate?
Yes, I brought these back and I made these copies for yourself and the defense
Okay. Next
from my
doc-
records. Next one is a continuation of the same certificate, just in a different format, the exact same certificate of 2005, Cadaver Search School, November 2005.
Okay.
The next document is the Advanced Cadaver Search School, which I completed in November of 2006, put on by the same organization in Sarasota, Florida, Canine Specialty Search and Associates, hosted by Andy Redman. This is a copy of the certificate that I obtained from that school.
All right. Are you the individual responsible for maintaining the business record of the Orange County Sheriff as it relates to that document reference K-9 Garris?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay. Is that an exact duplicate of the original that would have been prepared at or near the time of the certification?
It is.
Okay. Next document.
The next document is Canine Team Certification, dated 12/31 of 2008 for Canine Garris. And then it gives his ID number. ID number is, I'll do it phonetically, November Mike 4805. And it's part of his FDLE certification, copy of his certificate.
Is that part of the business record that you maintain on K-9 Garris for the Orange County Sheriff?
Yes, ma'am. This is part of the examination and evaluation form, the FDLE certification for November of 2006 for Canine Garris with the same canine identification number, November Mike 4805. Next one.
Is that a multi-page document?
I believe so, yes, because this is a CJ Form 83 and the other one's CJ Form 70. This is a single form, and the next one's another evaluation form for 2010, I believe. I'm sorry, that's the wrong date. It's 06 also.
Is that the multi-page evaluation form? for
Yes,
K-9
ma'am.
Garris?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Are those documents maintained by you as the custodian or the person responsible for maintaining the accuracy of the records at the Orange County Sheriff's Office on K-9 Garris?
Yes, they are. This is another FDLE form, certification for myself and Canine Garris. This is November of 2007. Same canine identification number, November Mike 4805. It's a multiple page form. Those are all the pages continuous to November of 07.
There are several pages here comprising similar documents. Can you look at those and tell me what they are?
Yes. These are a copy of our training logs that I complete for the dog when I do a training scenario. set up starting January 11th of 2005, which go through September 6th of 2008. And they're all his training logs.
His training logs for cadaver only, correct?
Correct. These are for cadaver only.
Are you the individual that makes the entry on the log?
I am.
Are these entries made at or near the time of the event that is being documented?
They are.
Are these records maintained in the normal course of business of the Orange County Sheriff?
They are.
Are you the individual responsible for maintaining the accuracy of this record for the Sheriff's Office?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce NR for identification into evidence.
Mayor, want to hire the witness, Your Honor.
You may.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
The records that you have here, you're in charge of keeping them?
Yes.
And this is so you can, if ever called upon to go to court, you can show the judge and the jury that the dog has been trained?
That is correct.
And this is also so you can show the judge and the jury the certifications that this dog has?
That is correct. The outside certificate, you mean?
Yes.
The training log itself?
Correct.
Well,
The certificates, I asked you first about the training logs.
Correct.
And as far as the certificates are concerned, it's the same thing. So you need, if you're ever called upon, you can show the judge and jury that this dog is certified.
Correct.
Now, as to the training logs, as far as the training logs are concerned, this has to deal with the times you trained the dog. Correct?
The times I trained the dog. I was with the dog training, yes, sir.
And when this has nothing to do with the actual field performance when you're out on the field, correct?
Real world search is what you're referring to?
Field performance, when you're out in the field as a police officer, not training.
Your Honor, I'm going to object the offer is as to training logs and certificates that I've got.
Sustain.
I have no further questions other than that, Judge.
Any objections to the proffered exhibits?
Yes, Judge. I would cite, if I may, 90.803, Section 6. I think the records are inadmissible under that section.
Sir, Harris versus State, April 21st, 2011 decision of the Florida Supreme Court found that 2011 WL 1496470, I will admit them into evidence.
Number 144.
May I publish documents from the exhibit admitted into evidence, Your Honor?
May publish.
Deputy Forgy, when was the first training by Andy Redmond's group that K-9 Garris underwent?
November of 2005.
If I may refer counsel to document dated November 11, 2005. Even though you were undergoing a training by this outside group, did you maintain a training log for Garris?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Can you explain to the jurors, and this is a telestrator, the information that you put on these logs?
Just read the log myself.
Well,
It has-
just tell us what this information is that you are putting on the log and the reason for it.
I'm identifying who the dog is, who the handler is, and what exactly we're doing, the date, the time, and then what we did that day. Where it has Canine Garris, the date it was 11/11/05, and the time was we trained all day because it was a seminar. The location was in Sarasota, Florida. And then below that is the cadaver searches, the quantities, the search area, the target locations, and if the target was found or not.
So as far as the requirements of this school that you all attended, is that what you put in the search area? These are the different environments that the dog is exposed to during training.
Yes, that was our search areas, the horse field, the canine training field, a pipe, and when I say pipe, it was a drain pipe, like a culvert where the dog had to go through to find the training aid. A trailer, portable, like a school portable, and gravel. It was mounds of gravel, like a dump truck had gone back there and dumped a mound of gravel.
All right. And then when you write target location on your training log, this is where the cadaver material was ultimately located?
Yes, ma'am.
And then target found? You make
Sorry.
indication on there as to whether or not there was the dog missed the target?
Correct. If he had missed it, it would be down below where the section says missed, and he had located all the targets.
Now, down here at the bottom of that matrix, you have the number of searches, and then it says total false alerts to date. Explain what information you record there.
If he was the false alert on that day, I would indicate it in that box. That's what the box is for.
And then on the next column, you have total misses to date. Is that a situation like we just talked about where the target...
Just a second. Go ahead.
Sorry. My fault. Okay, let's just... Thank you. All right, this first box here is where you're talking about the different search areas, the horse field.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then this box is the training locations that you just talked about.
Yes, ma'am.
And then I said circled target found.
Yes.
In this instance, Garris found all these targets.
Correct.
Down here on the document is where you would indicate if there was some sort of alert to something that was not present, a false alert.
Correct.
Okay. The next column is where you would record whether there was something that was there that he didn't alert to, which you've termed a miss.
Correct.
Okay. And then the last one would be the number of fines.
Yes.
Okay. So on this date in particular, there were 8 targets and 8 fines.
Yes, ma'am.
What information do you record on the bottom half of the form?
The bottom half, the weather information. I put the day, the condition, whether it's hot or cold, whether it's clear or rainy, whether it's humid or overcasted, and whether there's any kind of fog. The next box is going to be your wind direction, your wind speed, and your temperature. And below that would be a comment section.
And these are your comments that you've put in here as to the different sort of targets that were used during the training.
Yes.
Is this the same format that you utilize for all of Garris's training records?
Yes, it is.
If I may approach the witness with what's been marked as states. NS, NT, NU, NV, NW, NX, NY, NZ, OA, OB, OC, OD, OE, OF, OG, and OH.
You may.
You've had an opportunity to review these photographs, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you recognize them?
Yes.
What are they?
They're myself and Canine Garris training while at the two seminars in Sarasota, Florida in 05 and 06.
Do each of those photographs fairly and accurately depict what was required, some of the things that were required of you and Canine Garris at these schools?
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce the referenced lettered exhibits for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
No objections.
They will be received in evidence as states numbered.
And S will become states 145, and T 146, and U will become states 147, and V will become states 148, and W will become states 149, and X will become states 150, and Y will become states 151, and Z will become states 152, OA will become states 153, OB will become states 154, OC will become states 155, OD will become states 156, OE will become states 157, OF will become states 158, OG will become states 159, OH will become states 160.
May I have permission to publish?
You may.
Deputy Forgy, you indicated that the photographs that we're about to look at encompassed Canine Garris's training at two different schools.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We had talked about a training in 1995 in Sarasota. Was there a subsequent training with the same organization?
2005,
What did I say?
95.
I'm sorry, 2005.
Yes, ma'am. November of 2005 and November of 2006.
And what was the difference between the two?
One was a basic cadaver dog course, and the other one was his advanced cadaver dog course.
Okay. What distinction is to be made between the two? Why is the second one more advanced? What is required?
Oh, we did a lot more of the distracting, a more proficient and advanced school. like in some of the pictures, you'll see what they had to go through to pick out the right stuff and the other distractors.
I'll show you what's been introduced as States 145 in evidence and ask you to explain which school this picture was taken at.
This is going to be 2006.
Let me center it. Here we go, a moment to try to eliminate the glare. It's from theirs.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, is there a way to, it's the canister lights in the ceiling that are causing the reflection on the surface of the photo.
Right here, if we take them down all the way, I think the bottom, down here. And then the light on.
Show us, or tell us what we're looking at here, if you would.
We're doing an interior search. It was actually a haunted house that we were using that day. And there's blood back here on a piece of clothing in the corner.
You can touch the screen.
I accidentally did. It's behind him where he's turning and looking. So I'm sorry, it's in front of him. So I'm coloring over the dog right now, but it's where his head is turned that direction in this pile of clothes that's down here in this corner.
All right. Now,
It doesn't work.
are there some indicators to you during this training session that the dog has either a change of behavior or is alerting to
Yes.
something?
You'll be able to see in the other pictures, see how fuzzy his hair is sticking out. I refer to it as like a hackle. It's up, it's high, it's proud. He's turning because of the way the odor is coming out of there, commonly referred to as a head snap. If you see the dog head snap working into odor, we were walking down the hallway if you're looking at the screen from the left to the right, turning into the hallway. I thought he was going to go into this room, but he didn't. He gave me a good hard head snap here, turned into direction, and ended up going back over here and later giving me a final trained alert. The picture was taken right before that.
States 146 in evidence. What are we looking at here?
This was referred to as the bone room within the haunted house. Obvious reasons. There were 2 real bones in this room, and he had to find them. The rest of them are all fake. The 2 real human bones out of all the fake distractors. There was one on the wall and one in the pile that he was at right there.
147 in evidence. What's happening here? Is this the 95 or 96?
05. It's
I
okay.
keep saying the same things.
It's okay. This is the 2005. We're in the middle of one of the horse training rings, the horse training field. And the training aid is underneath this box. There's a couple boxes out there. I don't know what they use them for, horse training wise, but we had our training aid in the center of this. So you would have all the animal distractors throughout the field. And it's an open range search, off lead search. He's turning and starting to work odor. His tail's up. It's fuzzy again. His nose is down.
All right. 148 in evidence. And 149, is that somehow different than 148?
Yes.
How so?
Garris would like to find the odor, work the source, give me a final trained alert, and then turn and look at me and make eye contact with me. He always has. And this is him, because those photos were actually taken in sequence. When he was working the odor, he gave his final trained alert, looking at the odor, and then turned and looked at me for acknowledgement.
And documented also in 150 in evidence.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me show you 151 in evidence. What are we seeing here?
A vehicle search, a training of vehicle search as well at the advanced school. Sweeping a vehicle, commonly sweep them low, sweep them high. That's what we're doing here. You can see how why I explained earlier, why I let the lead loose in my hand, how it's got slack so you're not pulling the dog off of it or stopping or whatever. You leave slack.
$152 in evidence.
Same thing, another vehicle search training. You see his hair on his tail is changing again. He's in odor, but I'm actually going to spin him right here. I'm going to spin him because I thought he passed the door too fast to get to source. So redirect him and you spin right back around and put him back and continue to search. The odor on this one is actually under the rear bumper.
153 in evidence. What is that showing?
One of the training aids, a femur.
All right. And 154, same? Is that a training aid as well?
That's another training aid. It's an upper jaw bone.
All right. 155 in evidence.
It's the horse training field again at the seminar. Just shows I'm refining my search, directing.
156 in evidence.
This was the pipe, the culvert that I was explaining earlier. The training aid was at the center of this, and they had to actually work to it.
$157 in evidence.
Block searches. You can see his tail. You see his head. I would refer to it as fixing to dunk his head into the odor. Concrete boxes. See, he's kind of shifted forward because he's come to a fast stop before he could give me his final trained alert. Again, you see the leash is slack, and I'm still moving.
$158.
He's working odor, working another set of blocks, where there'll be multiple empty blocks or distractors in the empty blocks, and one of them will have the training scent source there. The wind was hitting us in the nose that day, so where I started him, he's going to pull me straight past everything right to it.
All right, and then 160, if Garris is successful, he gets a reward.
Yes, ma'am.
And is this photograph to show the type of reward that he gets?
Yes, that was a ball. Handler praise and a ball. That's his reward.
Okay, thank you. That's a problem with the overhead lights. Now, during either of those schools, did Garris have any misses,
Yes,
okay, false alerts?
I believe he had one. He had a few misses.
Do you have an explanation that you believe was the reason for his miss?
We had done, on the one day that I'm looking at specifically, we had done 15 searches. We'd worked all day. In the haunted house, he missed 2 small pieces of napkin that had a couple drops of blood in the hallway. But he had located 13 items in that building. There was 15 items, he missed 2 of them.
And I had asked you about whether or not he alerted on something that you learned was not there.
Correct.
And what is your recollection about that?
I would refer back to my logs real fast. I don't believe there was. There may have been. In 06, no false alerts. 05, I have 1 false alert on the 9th and 3 false alerts on the 8th.
All right. On the 8th,
Yes, ma'am.
why do you think that happened?
We had 31 searches that day. He was tired.
Regulation.
Overall.
You can answer. Maybe you did. I didn't hear it.
We had done 31 searches that day. That's the most he's ever done in one day. He was tired. And I indicate that in my log actually also. I typed it at the bottom. He appeared to be getting bored and gave 3 false alerts. Garris finished the search finding the targets with encouragement.
All right.
He was bored and tired.
Now, the next day, you indicated that there was
On
one,
the 9th,
or did I mishear you?
no, it was 11-9. I have 12 searches that day with 1 false alert. Numerous training materials were used. The soil, adipocere, pseudoscent bones, and mummified muscle. I didn't indicate. It was just he just false alerted that day.
Now, do those training scenarios accurately reflect a real-world situation? Would you ever have a dog performing 31 searches in one day?
You would never search that much. Usually when you find, in the real-world situation, when you find one item, you stop your search, depending on the item and depending on the search itself.
Now, in addition to these schools, does Garris undergo any sort of regular, what you might call maintenance training?
Yes, he's required to continue his maintenance training, a minimum of 2 specialties a month, and then quarterly we're evaluated by either a supervisor or a trainer.
All right. How many times between July 29th of 2005 and June 7th of 2010 did Garris undergo a quarterly evaluation by a trainer or a supervisor?
You said in 08 was the last date?
05 to 010.
Oh, I'm sorry.
05 to 10.
"21 times he was evaluated."
And
From-
did you kept training records as to each of those evaluations?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any problems during those evaluations with misses or false alerts?
No, I did not.
Has Garris ever trained in situations where a body that you knew, a body to be present, and then the body was removed, what you might refer to as residual odor, or the odor left by something even though it's been removed? Have you trained Garris in those circumstances?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Do you recall specific instances where that occurred?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury when and the circumstances of that?
The first time was 9/5 of 05. A body had been recovered or located next to a retention pond in the high grass. The gentleman had been deceased for approximately 7 days. I went there and ran it before they had actually removed the gentleman as a training aid. I spoke to the homicide detective prior to it, and I ran it as a training aid. And then I went back 10 days later after the body had already been removed and had been in the natural environment. I went there 10 days later and worked it from 2 different directions to see how we would react with the wind direction change also. That was the first one. And we actually ended up finding 2 pieces that they had missed.
2 bones?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a second time?
The second time was 4/4 of 2006, where a transient had been located deceased, and they estimated approximately 2 days. It was just off the roadway, maybe 20, 25 yards into the woods. There was food around. It was a white female. There was food around her. And I asked the detectives again if it was okay if I ran it as a training aid because of the huge scent source. And it was okay. And I ran that one.
And did you have any problems with Garris missing or falsely alerting on a different location?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
And then the third one was 7/22 of 2007. And that body had been removed from the side of the roadway where it had been discarded. approximately 10 hours when I ran that one. That was in Osceola County. I got a phone call on that.
All right.
And I
You're saying 10 hours after the body had been removed? You
10
used
hours
that?
after the body had been removed, yes, ma'am.
And did you have any issues with Garris either missing that area or falsely alerting to another area?
No problems with it at all.
Since 2001, when you said you started doing this sort of work, how many cadaver canine calls do you believe you've had?
Real world calls over 200.
And in training?
And in training, almost 500. It was 498.
Now, in addition to doing this cadaver work, Garris is a full-service dog, so he undergoes other training?
Yes, he does.
Right. And when you're working, he's working
Right.
however many hours that is a week?
Correct. It's easier just to break it down as, it's 80 hours every 2 weeks.
Now, how is it that you end up being called typically to a scene?
A detective will call me. Sometimes I get called for cold case files because somebody's called in a tip on a cold case, maybe 10 years old, maybe 30 years old. Just something livens up a case, or it could be a fresh case that the detective calls me on, and I get out there. There's been a few calls that I've actually heard dispatched that I thought I could help with. Or I've checked the screen and seen something, like someone called in and said they knew that there was a body located in this area. They had heard little Timmy had been killed and he was back in the woods, and they wanted to let us know. And I'll self-initiate and go out there and see if I can help them in any way.
Is the typical end result of these calls, either you're self-initiated or calls for assistance, that there's no alert?
That's correct. It's typical.
In 2005, did Garris have any cadaver searches in real-world scenarios?
I had no real-world call-out cadaver searches with them in 2005.
How about 2006?
2006, I had 6 calls.
And of those 6 calls, did Garris alert at all?
Out of those 6 call-outs, I had 1 alert.
All right. And what was the result of that alert?
It was a find. I found a deceased person. And I don't know the end result of that. I don't know if it ended up being a homicide or not. I have the case number documented, though.
All right. But in that year, you had 1 alert and 1 find.
1 alert, 1 find.
No false alerts.
No false alerts.
Okay. In 2007,
2000, I'm sorry.
how many real-world?
I had 9 real-world cadaver searches.
Any alerts?
No alerts.
So since there's no alert, no false alert.
Correct.
How about in 2008?
2008, I had approximately 71 cadaver searches with 3 alerts. The first one was 3/24 of 2008, so March 24th of 2008, and that was a find.
All right. What did Garris find?
He found a mandible, which is the mandible is your lower jawbone with the teeth attached.
Now, the events of this case occurred in 2008. Let me at least skip over that for the time being. After July of 2008, after July 15th of 2008, did you have several call-outs for suspected grave sites or something suspicious as it related to the disappearance of Kaylee Anthony?
Absolutely.
Is
No.
that why you went from 9 cadaver searches to 71 in the period of
Yes.
1 year?
Yes, we had hundreds of tips on this particular case, and that's why we went from such a little number of searches to such a large number of searches.
Now, when you responded to these tip calls, did you see anything that would suggest that there was disturbed earth, that there might have been something in this search location?
Yes. I particularly documented two of these cases that both of them looked like there was a recent shallow grave, indent in the dirt. The grass is not the same. It appears like a shallow grave, small shallow grave.
Did Garris alert to either of those locations?
No, neither one of them.
Were they dug nonetheless?
They were still dug due to the fact that they were related to this case, and they were dug by forensics.
Do you know what the findings were as it relates to those?
Both of them were animals.
In 2009, did Garris have any cadaver searches?
Yes, I had 12 cadaver searches in 2009 with one alert,
Okay, and what was the result of his alert?
a find,
And what were the circumstances of that?
a drowned victim. He was still underwater. He had fallen out, I believe he fell out of a canoe and had not surfaced.
And how about 2010?
2010, I had 11 searches and no finds, or no alerts, I'm sorry.
Garris is currently retired.
Yes.
And when was his last day of work?
His last day of work was a call, and it was September 24th of 2010. He went down on a call.
One of the real-world scenarios that you've described was actually captured on videotape.
Yes, ma'am.
Which one?
That was the first one, the female in 2006. Yes, 5/29/2006, I believe that's it.
And what can you tell the jury about the circumstances of this alert?
A male had called in and said that he had heard that there was a deceased female. I believe the circumstances that he had heard that she had been shot and discarded in a wooded area near a pond on the west side of town. The deputies went out there. There was approximately 5 of them that had gone and walked the woods and searched by the pond and could not find anything. They had called for the helicopter to come out and search the area. The helicopter had since left the area, and I believe they switched crews. I know they fueled up again, but I believe they switched crews and came back, searched the area again when I heard the call. I told them I'd come over and try and help them in any way I could. The helicopter searched again, saw that I had arrived, and called me on an off channel. They said they were leaving again, but please be aware that there was a large alligator in the pond in the area that I was just going out there. So I asked them to remain in the area if they would, to watch the alligator while I searched, because next to the pond it was a lot of I refer to it as sweet grass, the real thick, real green grass that you get around ponds in Florida, and it's pretty tall. So it'd be easy to go through and fall off into the pond if I didn't know where I was at.
All right. Was this in the evening hours? Was it dark out?
Yes, it was dark.
And so the reason why this ended up being captured by the sheriff's office helicopter is because there was an alligator in the area.
Correct.
You've had the opportunity to review this incident?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The video produced is fair and accurate
Yes, ma'am.
version of the events as they occurred.
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I would seek to introduce OI for identification into evidence.
What says the defense?
We would object. We received no prior disclosure on this at all. May we approach?
You may. Okay, objection will be overruled. It will be received in evidence as states numbered. Okay, members of the jury, the video is approximately 20 minutes in length. So what we're going to do is go ahead and recess until 5 minutes to the hour of 3, and then when we return, we will publish that exhibit. Okay, we'll be in recess. Thank you.